Good afternoon and welcome back to another ironic introduction to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Doom Eternal, just kind of a quick review and some thoughts on the game that I had after completing it. So some fun facts or some quick stats is it took me about 12 and a half hours to beat this game on the second level difficulty of 4, hurt me plenty. I did max out almost all of the guns, at least half of, you have 2 mods on each gun, so I did cap out at least one. Additionally, I did 6 out of 6 of the Slayer gates, which are like these additional encounters in order to unlock the extra gun, the unmaykr, which was super awesome. I did most of the secrets. I kind of started skipping towards the end because I didn't need any of the progression value there. And yeah, I really enjoyed the game. If you don't want to listen to the rest of the review, some of it is, I don't think the game is worth $60. I think it's definitely worth $35, maybe $25. You kind of have to judge for yourself based on like what difficulty you would play on, because if you're playing on like the second level difficulty, 12 and a half hours is a short amount of time to pay $60 for, even as amazing as this game was. But if you're gonna get play like the next level difficulty, that's gonna take you like 30 or 40 hours, or the very hardest difficulty could take you 60 to 100 hours. You could definitely get a lot more bang for your buck if you're one of those players who wants to do one of the like harder difficulties. But as someone who just wants to enjoy the run and gun, quote unquote, hack and slash badass nature of Doom Eternal, where you just feel like this unstoppable Slayer cruising through mountains of demons, then yeah, 12 and a half, not exactly the most amount of time. I think there's some really major pros for the game. If we're talking about review, I think like some major pros I want to point out is like you get this super badass Slayer perspective and some like honestly really solid and compelling story, just from like the cutscenes and the talking, etc. in the game, and I think that's really cool. And if you're someone who's willing to read, there's a lot more in-depth lore in the codexes, and you get a really big understanding of the universe and stuff, and that's going to add a lot of time to the game as well. I didn't read most of the codexes myself because I don't really like having to read books when I'm playing a video game, but if you are someone who enjoys that mix, Doom Eternal does add that very well, and it rewards you for exploring by providing you lore at like well-timed moments, and that's very awesome to have. Additionally, there's some really great achievements, challenges, and secrets and stuff, and of course the harder difficulties to test your ability and capability as a Slayer, which feels really good and very rewarding. And then finally, I think like it's really important to recommend that you play headphones when you play Doom Eternal, because it has some of the best in-game soundtracks. Like, I'm someone who doesn't really notice music too much when I play video games, because a lot of times I end up turning the music off or down a lot just because I need to focus on sound effects to play optimally. But Doom's soundtracks, it's just so seamlessly transitions from soundtrack to soundtrack based on combat encounter from combat encounter. It's just absolutely amazing. You don't ever feel like there's a disjointed change in music or ambience, and it just does an amazing job of immersing you in the game. So if you have some really nice headphones, this is a time to bust them out for the gaming. I think that that said, overall gameplay and stuff, those are some really great reasons to play the game, but there were a couple things that made this game less enjoyable for me. I think that if you aren't going to play the game on a higher difficulty or read the lore, then the game is relatively short. I would have really liked to have a bit more out of a $60 game. Some of the enemies did feel less satisfying to take down. It is nice to go from like the scaling, like something that seemed like a crazy boss does become like kind of a common enemy later, and that's really cool. That's pretty standard for Doom. But I feel like some of the enemies, it felt like if you didn't have a very specific ammo type or a very specific utility saved for that enemy, you were just SOL, and you were just stuck running around the map waiting for it to reload or waiting to find ammo, and it wasn't a good time. I would have liked a little bit more diversity in ammo selections for taking down enemies. I would have liked a little bit more options in regards to kind of approaching different mobs and minions, but I think even without that, the encounters are relatively few and far enough between that it's not too big of a deal, and it doesn't become like a major problem until you start hitting missions like 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, or really like the last 33% of the game, so you're already fairly committed, so running into an extra frustrating encounter here or there is not too big of a deal, because you're just satisfied to be progressing at that point. But yeah, it does really push this idea of like ammo scarcity, and it really makes you feel like you're punished for using your utility. Like, you have all this utility, this huge arsenal at your disposal, and then if you use it and you run into a mob that you needed a specific ammo type for, you just feel terrible that you don't have it stashed up. And then finally, I think by the time you've unlocked your entire arsenal and you've got all the weapons available to you and you feel like this incredibly badass slayer, the game is pretty much over. You got like 1, maybe 2 missions with your full kit, everything maxed out, and you feel great. And I would have really liked to see like 3 to 5 more missions of you just having everything maxed out just to really properly enjoy your full arsenal, because you spent all this time getting there and then you don't really get to enjoy it properly. And I think that another 3 to 5 missions wouldn't have been too crazy to add. They could have honestly just taken the same quantity of content and just stretched it out and given you all the unlocks a little bit earlier. I think it would have felt better that way as well. Overall, Doom Eternal, absolutely amazing game. If you got $35, I definitely think it's worth it. If you're going to play on a harder difficulty, definitely worth it at 60. That said, I hope this helps some of you make a decision, or maybe you just live vicariously through me and my gameplay. But as always, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.